Tuned for additional updates. I'm meteorologist Derek Height.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet Service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4 lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today is Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln. Ed, how are you, sir? You doing all right?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for having me on, Seth.
Thanks for making time for us. You staying cool? What is going on? This heat wave is boy, it's extending. I saw you extended it all the way to Thursday evening. What is going on? What is all this heat due to, Ed?
Yeah, we had a heat dome building out west, and we were kind of sheltered from that by having a frontal boundary kind of separating us. And now this frontal boundary has shifted east, and we are in the dome of heat. So we're not in like excessive heat or extreme heat where we're up to a heat index of 110 or more. But we're just, festering at that heat advisory level, and it's just enough to sap your energy every day.
I think some folks would disagree that it is excessive heat, because it is feeling pretty rough out there. Now, I remember going back to our last visit, as we talked about preparing for the summer heat, you mentioned those first few days, they can be a real shock to your system. At this point, should we be used to it if we've been outside for an extended time or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, it just started up on Saturday, so there's been 2 days of really high heat, and that's not quite enough. Like once we're done with this particular period of heat, then our bodies will have adapted somewhat to the effects of the heat. But you really can't diminish the need for a lot of water, and electrolytes too. You don't want to just only take in water, but you got to give your body a chance, a fighting chance. If you don't give it enough water, then you're really not going to acclimate properly either, because your body has to go through that process of sweating and reacting and figuring out how much of the blood flow to the skin layer is going to be needed to make yourself be able to handle this level of heat. So it's all part of the process, and making sure you follow those steps will help your body adapt. Otherwise, if you don't drink enough, then you're not going to be able to get that adaptation going.
Got it. So speak to me, Ed. I saw initially the heat advisory was to expire tomorrow night. That's Tuesday night. However, it looks like it's been extended to Thursday. What's going on there? Obviously speak to the extended heat advisory and, what has led to just kind of maybe this heat staying around a little longer than initially anticipated. What's going on?
Well, what we're seeing is some afternoon thunderstorm threats on Wednesday and Thursday. And initially, those were higher threats. And if there's cloud cover, it's definitely going to keep your heat indices, out of the hundreds. We're seeing enough that, it's going to be enough impacts, and the chances are 30%, Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon. So we just added those 2 days in because, we're seeing enough diminishment of the cloud cover and extent of the cloud cover that we want to make sure people understand that, this heat is not, going to be going away that quickly, and just to make sure you're always making plans for, the impacts from that heat.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So heat sticking around until Thursday. Let's kind of just speak to the daily, the daily ebbs and flows of this heat. Obviously going to be very hot during the day. Looks like it's going to cool off, but not significantly in the overnight. Just give us the breakdown of the week here, Ed. What are we looking at?
Yeah. What makes the heat more impactful is that the low temperatures stay in the mid 70s, and that's what we're going to see all week. Because that does make a difference. If your body doesn't have a chance to really cool off at night in this kind of heat. I know people will probably be in air conditioning, but still the long-term impacts are influenced by the overnight low temperatures. And so mid 90s for highs. Well, it'll be low 93, 95 today, 93 tomorrow, 92 Wednesday, 93 Thursday. So you get into the 90s, but those lows 75, 74, 74 just isn't enough to allow our bodies to recover at night, and that just exacerbates the impacts if anybody does have anything going on in the evenings or overnight. And that overnight low doesn't hit until like 5 or 6 in the morning, so it's still well into the 80s all through the evening, if not even around 90. So it just has an impact, and it compounds the resulting influence on our bodies.
Looks like today's going to be the hottest of it, it sounds like.
Right. Yeah. Today is our hottest day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday all have those late afternoon thunderstorm chances. So we'll probably see some, pop up clouds at the very least, and then, a few thunderstorms, developing periodically as we hit the late afternoon, early evening time frame. So that'll help a little. If you have any cloud cover at all, that really makes a big difference. I do triathlons, and anytime you can get into the shade when you're running, you're like, oh, whee! It makes a huge difference getting out of the direct sunlight, because our heat index, I should point out, is for a shaded area. Those heat indices are calculations for, what we would get on our temperature sensors, which are beehive kind of enshrouded, and only the wind passing through gives the temperature. If you're in the sun, you can add 10 degrees to that heat index number. Or even up to 10 to 15 degrees hotter in the feeling of that if you're in the direct sunlight. So that's why, if you're outside in the sun, you can expect even higher impacts than what we're, messaging right now.
Yeah. I did not know that. Maybe I did. I just had forgotten it. But that add, so if you're in the sun, that heat index is, plus 10.
Right. And that's extreme heat warning, kind of numbers.
Yeah.
But we don't forecast, our numbers for in the direct sunlight. It's just the way we have our sensors set up. We can't monitor what's in the direct sunlight, because that's not how we monitor. We always monitor temperatures in those protected areas that are just having the wind flow through, just to be consistent across all areas.
Talk to me, Ed, the chances of storms this week, and just in general, when it comes to when you get into days like this where it's just this hot. I know you've talked in the past about, sometimes storms can struggle to develop because of a lack of moisture being available to draw from. So speak to that a little bit, and then obviously how that translates into chances for storms, rain at all this week.
Yeah. Well, when you're under just a summertime heat dome, there's not a real trigger for the storms to develop. So you're just up to the ebb and flow of where rising air is going to develop. What's going to heat up more than somewhere else, and cities and paved areas heat up a little faster and a little higher temperatures. So if there's enough of an updraft that develops in any one area, that can create enough to create a thunderstorm. And then if that thunderstorm drops cold air, that spreads out, and that's going to push up air somewhere else. So it's really just, you get one going, it rains out, creates a circle of air that's expanding, and cold air stays near the ground, forces warm air up, and then you start to see pop up here, pop up there, and then that drops cold air, and it's just an ebb and a flow of where these develop. And that's why, in the summertime, in this kind of a heat dome, if you look up and you see a cloud forming, probably could have a good chance of rain in about 30 to 45 minutes. That's just the way this kind of an air mass is. We do have a frontal boundary kind of sagging a little further south as we head into Thursday. That's going to give us a little better chances probably. But for the most part, the DeWitt County area is just going to be in that dome of heat, and just see what happens in terms of where those storms develop. That's why it's tough to forecast. We just went 30% because that's general coverage in these days.
Got it. Very good. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, our guest on the Zoom here for this morning. So, Ed, any chances of sustained rainfall at all beyond just those pop-up chances we've got through the week?
Nothing's jumping out in terms of, a lot of rain. Let me look in our extended model here. Yeah, we stay under the heat all week. A frontal boundary doesn't pass. Boy, I'm not seeing the next real chance of extended rainfall. May take all the way until late part of June, 29th, 30th, where it looks like a low pressure system comes in with a front. But at this point, it's just going to be more summertime pop-up storms for the balance of the rest of the month at this point.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, in terms of this heat, where should this, of course, let's say we end, the week in, all these temperature ranges that we're talking here. How will that shake out June in terms of average temperatures and rainfall and all those things?
Sure. Yeah. So far this month, the DeWitt County area is just a little below normal precip. Usually get about 3 inches through this time, and I'm looking at the Cocoa Raws numbers, and you're about 2.81 for the observer in Clinton, 2.25 inches of rain as you head up towards Farmer City. In Logan County, we've had over 4 inches, so we're about 1.25 inches above normal for most of Logan County. But as you head into DeWitt, it looks like you're just slightly below normal of that 3-inch amount so far.
I appreciate you bringing this up. I don't mean to cut you off. That's actually one thing I wanted to dive into today, Ed, is the variance in rainfall. I was talking to guys in Decatur the other day. They've got fields underwater. We've got fields up here that need the rain. What's going on there?
Yeah, that's the summertime way it happens. I mean, you will get a deluge of rain, like across Bloomington when we had Tailgate and Tall Boys. East side of the city had 2 inches of rain, and the Tailgate and Tall Boys hadn't gotten anything yet. You can have one side of the street get 1 inch of rain, the other side get 1/10, and that's just the way it is. Ebb and flow. It's feast or famine in that sense. Usually it balances out over the whole summer. Hopefully not, but you can get areas of pockets of drought in like DeWitt County right now is the low ball of pretty much any county in central Illinois right now. It looks like DeWitt County. Yeah, it is. Besides you and maybe Scott County, and but yeah, you're in a little bit of a pocket of dry. It's not abnormally. It's only 1/4 to 1/2 inch below normal, but still, the crops are maturing now, and that evapotranspiration is drawing so much moisture out of the soil. You really do need to replenish it pretty steadily throughout this period of growth right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get back to temperatures for June. Where do we stand there?
Sure. Yeah. Right now, it looks like the temperature is finally approaching normal. We were so far below normal for the first 2.5 weeks that these 90s are starting to creep. We're still 1 degree below normal for the month. And that's going to change because the highs and lows are going to be so warm. This next week is going to bump us above normal, and that looks to probably continue our trend. So we'll end up the month above normal, but only because of this heat wave. We were 3 degrees below normal heading into this thing. So, we're finally going to start to creep up towards that normal.
Summer has arrived, indeed. Very good. Very good, Ed. Hey, I'll tell you what, my friend, let's break here, come back. Let's talk about July, August, and see what the rest of the summer holds. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, my guest on the Zoom. More to come with Ed on the morning show.
WHOW.
Let's check the markets on the RFD radio network. I'm DeLois Yonke. Pretty lackluster today for grain and soybean futures, and slowly drifted lower. July corn down 4 3/4, 428 3/4. September down 3 1/2, 425 1/2. December down 2 3/4, 441 1/4. July soybeans down 6 3/4, 1068. August down 5 1/4, 1071 1/2. November down 7 1/2, 1060 3/4. July wheat down 6 1/2, 567 3/4. KC down 8, 563 1/4. Livestock cattle had a reversal during the session. Hogs held their gains. July lean hogs up 60, 112.77. August live cattle down a buck 85, 209.82. August feeders down 172, 302.45. RFD Radio Network.
Looking for a new Silverado? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. We have a good selection of new Silverado inventory. We have Silverados in 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s with several trim levels, custom, LT, RST, LTZ, and yes, even high countries. All our inventory is priced for our summer savings season. Baum Chevrolet Buick. Together, let's drive. BaumChevroletBuick.com right from the start.
Symptoms can't wait? We have the solution. CEO Paul Scourin here from Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Come to our walk-in clinic inside our family medicine. No appointment, no problem. See our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guest on the Zoom today, Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln. All right, Ed, well, let's dive into the rest of the summer, July, August. We've got this brutal heat here with us this week, and I feel like you're going to tell me more is to come because that's just July and August in Illinois. What are we looking at?
Yeah, oddly enough, though, as I'm looking into the first week of July, a high pressure that's kind of Canadian centered is going to kind of drift into Illinois, and that would spell a break from the heat. And then I look at the entire month's outlook that came from the Climate Prediction Center, and they have only an equal chance of above or below normal temperature across the majority of Illinois, except for the far north. So, that's kind of hinting towards maybe high pressure settling in for at least a week of that first part of the month, hopefully. The heat dome is going to kind of shift over to the west of us. So that's kind of a good sign. We're not going to just flip on the heat switch and keep it going through all of July at this point is what it looks like for temperature wise anyway.
Got it. So maybe a bit of a reprieve, maybe not as bad as we thought.
I know. I'm looking forward to that. When I look into the 3 to 4 week outlook, it's got heat above normal for Illinois. That's July 5th to the 18th. So, that's probably spelling a little bit of heat building in that middle part of the month. But maybe, it'll be cool at the beginning and cooler at the end. So the middle part of the month, maybe our heat period there right after the 4th of July or so.
Well, and just in general, I mean, you're going to tell us one thing, and it'll be, whatever happens will probably be the total opposite. I mean, I feel
when May was below normal temps and below normal precip, I was like, wait a minute.
I know. Yeah, we were talking above normal for both in May when we. I remember that. So hard to predict those things for sure. Yeah. But and so remind us, Ed. As we're kind of winding down June, getting into July, what are average temperatures for this time of the year, both in the daytime and the nighttime? What are we looking at?
Right. Yeah, this is our peak heat month. 86 for a high is 86. Average high goes all the way from the 1st to the 19th, and then it's 85 from the 20th to the end of the month for high. So right in the middle 80s, and then right around the middle 60s, 64 for almost the entire month, except for the last week. Then it dips down to 63. So mid 80s, mid 60s, the theme of July. And then precipitation wise, almost 5 inches, which is one of our highest precipitation months of the year. 4.91 or so, right around there. So a pretty wet month is expected, and that's because the thunderstorms can drop 2 inches of rain in an hour. Boom, you've got a quarter, a little over a quarter, almost half of your month's rainfall and one storm. So that's why on average across the entire area, almost 5 inches is what we normally see there.
Yeah, sure. Well, Ed, as we chat here, let's get into August. Again, more anticipated hot weather. Those are the real dog days of summer there. What are we looking at for the August outlooks?
Yeah, August is showing above normal. August, even finishing out the summer, August into September, above normal temperatures. And it isn't like, oh my gosh, Illinois is under a heat dome. It's borderline. It's basically 40 to 50th percentile of having that above normal signal. So it looks warm, but not excessive heat into that dog days of summer of August. And then precipitation wise, equal chances, but we are closer to the below normal than the above normal precipitation. So just have to keep an eye on if any of that starts shifting east, and maybe we see some drought conditions potentially set up in that August timeframe.
Got it. Hey Ed, I this is so out of left field. I was driving home last night from Lincoln on Route 10, and I noticed it was probably 9:10, give or take, and there was still some remnants of daylight back behind me. How much longer are we going to have these daylight glimpses into the 9 o'clock hour in central Illinois?
Yeah, there's usually a 2 weeks surrounding that solstice that you'll have twilight at 9 or even beyond, and that's right in the 4-week window around that solstice, because once the sun reaches that point, it's a really slow change in both directions for 2 weeks on either side, and then once you get to later July, then you're going to lose that twilight at the 9 o'clock hour or so. But enjoy it while it's around, and get outside and have as much of your outdoor time as you can, and then take advantage of it.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy those late evening daylight times. So always good stuff. Very good. Well, Ed, I'm trying to think. We did August. We did the outlooks for August. Did we do precip for August? Forgive me if we did, and I'm blanking on that.
Yeah, it's equal chances of above or below normal, but we're closer to drier than normal. Just Iowa and west. So. Okay.
How are we doing on moisture? I kind of gauge the moisture on like the greenness of my grass, and there's a few spots in my yard that'll puddle up, and when those get a little low, I start to think, okay, we've been dry for a while now. How are we doing on some of these drought conditions?
Right now, DeWitt County and surrounding areas they're showing no drought. You've been removed from the drought. The abnormally dry is just north of McLean County even. So we're doing okay. If I look at the 4, 8, and 20-inch soil moistures around the area, the 4 inch is doing well. It's between the 50th and 80th percentile. 8 inches is right on normal, but the 20-inch is looking towards Springfield. It's wetter than normal. Champaign area is a little drier than normal, but overall we're not doing too bad. We've gotten quite a bit of rain. Frequently enough here in that central Illinois area that drought conditions are not active across the area.
Got it. Very good. Well, Ed, as we kind of wrap things up here, I got about a minute left with you. This time of year, any campaigns or any safety awareness things the Weather Service taking on? What are we talking about with folks right now?
Yeah, we've got a link on our website, weather.gov/Lincoln, about cooling centers. We have a map that just plots them all. And in Clinton, you've got the library, the public library there is Warner Public Library. And then there's one other in DeWitt County Friendship Center. So, take advantage of those. If something breaks, your air conditioner breaks, I mean, that happens in the heat of the day. So, go to our website, check out, the heat messaging we have, and there's a cooling center link there. Just, if you can't make that one, there's other ones across all of Illinois.
That's a great resource. What a great resource to point out to us this morning, Ed. Thank you for that. Where do they find that one?
Weather.gov/Lincoln, and we have a link at the top of our page highlighting the heat safety there.
There you go. Good stuff. Hey, Ed, always good to talk to you, my friend. Let's do it again soon.
You bet. Sounds good.
Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, my guest on the Zoom Network News, comes your way now on the morning show.